AJ in Dubai, making moves Broadway. Real estate king, stack bricks all day. Bought a crib so tall, can't see the ground. Cash flow endless, funds never drown. Dubai skyline, Anthony raining, got the penthouse.
I'm back with your favorite guest, Dr. Anand. Thanks a lot for coming again on the show. Doctor, let's speak about the National Investment Strategy 2031. Most people don't know about it. Let's try to break it down as easy as possible for everyone to understand it.
Okay. It's important since we have this aggressive plan to go forward. We have talked in previous podcasts about the 2033 strategies, and there are 5 different strategies there, 2040. Investment is the bedrock on which you can build your infrastructure for the future. We already have a plan to double our foreign direct investment to $650 billion. Now, the National Investment Strategy 2031 is that we want to double by 2031. We need to, because right now we are at 650 million as FDI. So we want to bring in a lot of foreign direct investment to cross 1.3 trillion dirhams by 2031. That's the first thing. The second thing we want to do is all existing investment initiatives and contracts, agreements that Dubai has, we want to give more opportunity so that existing investors who are here, who've already seen the value, will expand and bring in more investments. So we are creating further opportunities in technology, AI, infrastructure, environment, sustainability, where we want to attract these investments, which is also why we are now giving 10-year visas to attract those professionals. When we have those professionals here, we can attract the kind of companies and large funds who want to invest in these categories. We are also looking at creating a better relationship with global investors, multinational corporations and governments, so that we can bring more of their investments into our city here. The fourth thing that we're looking at in the National Investment Strategy is to be able to provide new investors opportunities to come in here, to make it easy for them to bring investments in here. Fifth that we are looking at is there is a brand being created called Invest UAE. So we have to aggressively promote the Invest UAE brand, just like you got made in the US, made in India. We are creating the Invest UAE. So that we do not have yet a lot of details on it, but I'm sure the government will definitely explain that when it comes out. So again, like with growing the city and lifestyle and business opportunities, the government is showing the same consistency in creating a strategy to attract more investments into the city. And the focus is on attracting people, capital, and large corporations to come in here. And some of that is going to happen through the greenfield direct investments. That's the national strategy now.
Dr. Dubai Real Estate Strategy 2033.
Okay. The goal of that strategy is to increase 20 times the contribution of real estate to the GDP. We are going to be looking at a 73 to 74 billion contribution just from real estate to the economy.
It's $20 billion for people who don't get dirhams.
Dollars. And our real estate transactions will exceed 1 trillion every year from 2033.
1 trillion dirhams.
1 trillion every single year. Wow. That is the strategy going forward.
$270 billion.
Every single year. Also, we want to increase home ownership to 33%. Right now, 17% of the population owns at least one property in Dubai.
Okay.
So we want to take it up to 33%, which will be literally 1/3 of everyone. But you need to remember, by that time, we will have 6 million people. So roughly 2 million people should be owning at least one property in Dubai. That is the part of the real estate investment strategy going forward.
Regarding the budget, 25-27?
25 to 27, we did touch on it on an earlier podcast, but let's do it again. You might have
you
might have new viewers on this one.
Yeah.
We have understood as a city that if we have to develop and achieve those agendas, we need the infrastructure in place. So Sheikh Mohammed approved the largest ever budget outlay for Dubai for the next 3 years, which is 25 to 27. 272 billion dirhams is going to be put in. In 2025 alone, 86.27 billion is going to be put in, looking at generating revenues of 92 billion. That's just 2025. That money is being divided as 46% going into infrastructure development, 30% is going into social agendas, the beaches, communities for the elderly, for children, for people of determination, a lot of that, quality of lifestyle coming up, parks, etc. 30% is going into that. Around 6% is being put into AI, innovation and government transparency, and 18% is going to be put into building up our emergency response, safety, security systems. We do have 2.5 million new people coming into the city in the next 9 years. We want to be ready for them before they come. So this year alone, we are having a huge investment in that. Something like 15 to 16 billion dirhams is going into safety and security. So that's the outlay of this year. Plus for the next 3 years, 5 billion from the revenue that will be created each year is going to be put aside in a fiscal reserve. So we are trying to create a cash reserve also, so that in case there is any point where the economy is starting to slow down, we have the reserves internally, because we recognize that to a large extent something happening maybe in the US, for example, or in some other market, we are not in control of it. But it might impact certain people there who may want to hold back a little bit. Our initiatives cannot stop because of that. So we are building into it our own buffer systems by having an additional 5 billion being put in as on the side. So initially it is 5 billion each year, so 15 billion by the end of 2027. After that, there will be more information shared to us.
2024 has been the fourth year on the record, you know. What caused this huge influx in 2024? Do you think it was because so many wars were happening, or people got to know, did they really Habibi come to Dubai, or what happened? What made this year boom in this way?
Okay, I'll answer that in two ways. First, I'll tell you why it happened, then I'll tell you what actually happened.
Yeah.
Right. Why it happened was very clear. Post the pandemic, everybody understood and accepted that the best handling response of COVID was UAE.
Okay.
UAE and Israel were going together, and then the UAE overtook it. So it was very clear that here was a country that cared. Here was a country that was willing to take action quick to protect its people. And here was a country that did not differentiate between business owners, the economy, and the municipality workers or the Emiratis. Everybody was treated the same. And I've always said this, if something had to go wrong, I want my family to be in Dubai when it happens. And this feeling has been echoed by several people around the planet. That is the place to be. So post the COVID response, one, how we handled the response and how quickly we were back in business. People were unemployed for a year, in some cities 2 years.
They still till now suffering.
Yeah. So, but in 4 months, we were open again. Many people said that is a risky move to be open in 4 months. No. If you look at how we cleansed, we sanitized our cities, how we took care of our people, we were not ready to have more people die. But we knew that we had contained it, and when we opened it, we were confident that when anyone came in, we could still contain it. But at the same time, we capitalized on the opportunity to be the only city in the world open for business. That is the reason why 2020 onwards, we've had this incredible run in real estate. Plus, right on the back of that, we started to launch the strategies. The economic agendas came out. The golden visa had a stronger push. So we created the strategies to pull people in, and they could see that this was a government we could trust, and that they actually would deliver whatever they were planning. From there, it started to grow again. So this was the reason why. The opportunities, the new taxation structures. In a way, Dubai, particularly in the last 3 years, has become a solution to the problems of the world. Let's look at a few examples. Okay, wars is what you said. And I have to give credit here to someone known as Ben Bandari. from Ben & Co Real Estate, very well-known figure, because he's the one who actually put out a video about this, especially when the Israel-Gaza conflict had just started. So I have to acknowledge so I'm essentially echoing.
Oh, shout out to Ben, he's a very good friend.
Yeah. And I've been in this landscape from when it started, so I agree with Ben. This is what really happened. People's concerns were that wars are now getting more and more global and they will affect the economies. There's a certain amount of truth in that. But let's look at what history shows us. From 2003 to 2008, you had the Iraq War. But those were our highest years before the recession. And a recession was a global event, not started by us. But we had a very, very good real estate market at that time, even when the Iraq war was happening next door.
And even though back then there was not a few developments in the
Very,
city,
very
like
few.
you can count them on your own hands.
Yes. Then, after that, you had the Arab Spring, 2012 to 2014.
Yeah, that was the boom.
Yes. During that time.
2013 announcement of the expo, which made the...
Yeah. So what happened, even at that time, people felt unsafe in their own countries. But in Dubai, they felt, here's where I'm safe. And so they brought their money here. So we actually benefited from the unrest. Then you had in February of 2022, was it 20? Yes, February of 2022, you had Russia going into Ukraine. We had a record year that year, because where would the Russians take their money? They couldn't.
Even
go to
the Ukrainians came with, with
Ukrainians, most of the countries in that area said, let's move our money out. This has the potential to expand, because they couldn't take it to the US, they couldn't take it to Europe, India would not allow it, China would not allow it. They came here and we benefited from it. 2024 or 2023, Israel crossed over. That time everybody said, this time Dubai is done. It is very close to home. Iran will get involved. And we had our highest year in 2023 because people felt safe. Today, if you're in the Middle East, you cannot plan to next day because you don't know if you're going to wake up. In most of the countries. Here we're making plans for 10 years, 17 years and 45 years. We are creating plans. We are telling the multinationals are not coming here for 6 months to a year. They'll be here for 25 to 30 years. So you can make plans in Dubai, which you cannot do in this part of the world. Let's look at safety. I have friends in the US literally jump in their skin when the phone rings. Maybe it's a call from the school. There's been a shooting. Okay. They're worried when their daughters go out because they don't know what's going to happen. Are they coming back safe? Are their drinks going to get spiked? There's just so much happening out there. And we know today here, we have that peace of mind. I had a friend of mine from Singapore, an agent from Singapore, and there are thousands of examples like this. He came back all tired, left his wallet with everything in it in the car. We reached the room, realized it, came down, the taxi driver was waiting there for him. So I'm telling you that safety is there. We can give that safety to people. Today we know in many countries, especially if you come from this part of the world, they look at you differently. And you are always under risk of having an attack or something that could be racial as well on the streets. You won't find that here in Dubai. We don't have that. So safety. Let's look at taxes. Taxes are killing people around the world. We are giving you a tax structure that makes it friendly. DMCC has signed with the board of Monaco so that the Monaco taxation system is what we have, the 9%. And Monaco became the tax haven of the billionaires in Europe. We will become the Monaco of the Middle East. So
I think we are already.
We are. So the whole idea here is whenever we do anything, even if we are bringing in taxes, whatever, we know we are aiming to be number 3 during these next few years and number 1. You cannot become number 1 if you have an average education system, average communities, average business setups, average technology. You have to be as good as the best, if not better. Otherwise, why would people leave that and come here? So the thinking of the government here is whenever we do something, even if it's including taxes, we will do it in such a way that compared to anywhere in the world, ours will be the best. Mm-hmm. So in any field of development, anything that our airport is going to be the best. So everything is going to become like that. We will be the best. That's the thinking behind what we do. So we have actually become a solution to the problems of the world. That is the reason why people are coming here. So that's the why. What actually happened in Dubai? And I think this is information which even investors would like to know. Let's look at 2024 in review in terms of real estate. We had, in terms of cash transactions, which is investor driven transactions largely, except for the millionaires who are relocating, they'll buy their homes on cash. But largely, you had 180,900 cash transactions, 522 billion. In terms of mortgage transactions, which actually grew by 16.6%, you had 35,000 transactions and 187 billion. If you add in the gifts, which was about 11,000 transactions and 51.7 billion, the total performance of the Dubai market last year was 266,000 transactions, and the value of those transactions was 760.7 billion. If you look at the volume of transactions, 84% cash, 16% were mortgage. If you look at the value of transactions, 74% cash was off plan, because off plan is always cheaper than finished product. 26% was the mortgage. Average off-plan registered transaction in Dubai last year was 2.9. Average mortgage transaction was 5.3 million. The average for the market was 3.3. Now, in terms of comparing 2024 to last year, we had a 36% increase in volume of transactions and a 21% increase in value of transactions. So why is it that the volume grew but the value did not grow proportionately? Because we had a large entry of many Category B developers, the affordable category that came in. There was like a flood. So obviously they are lower priced on their entry points. So as a result, the volume grew because many who were renting wanted to buy and they couldn't buy the luxury lifestyles. They went in here. So the volume of transactions was high, but the average of the transaction value dropped.
Yeah.
But because of the affordable category. Now, if you look at the UAE in total, how it performed, there were 331,000 transactions in UAE. Dubai was 70% of that. If you look at the value of the transactions was 893 billion in UAE. Dubai was 85% of that. 15% was 6 other Emirates, including the Abu Dhabis and the Ras Al Khaimas and all of them. So in terms of price appreciations, 49 months of consistent increase at an average of 1.23% every month. So if you look at the last 4 years, it was around 60.57%, averaging 15% a year. Now that's an average. So we need to be careful about that number because it means in some areas it went above that. In some areas slightly below. That's why it was a 15%. So it's dangerous for people to go out and simply say 15% is the appreciation in Dubai. Not true. 15% is the average appreciation, which means certain areas might have even been above 20%.
Correct.
And some would have been 8 or 9%. So it's really important to understand the average. But it was an incredible year. In 2024 alone, we had a 16.5% increase because it was 1.6% every month. In terms of the number of new launches, we had 135,000 new units enter the market last year. Total value of 333 billion. By the time those units are close to handover, it will be probably close to 650 billion, the value of those units. The breakup of those was 71.8% were apartments, 23.9% were the townhouses, and 4.3% were the villas. In terms of actual handovers last year, we had around 28,300 units were handed over. 306,000 units currently under construction, but we have about 200,000 that will hand over in the next 5 years' time. We have 250 projects in the pipeline now for launches. So is the market in a good place? Absolutely.
I think it's heaven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cannot get any better. Doctor, you've been in this field for almost 35 years, right?
No. I'm in Dubai for 32. This is my 32nd year.
The field of investments, real estate.
Yeah.
You've
for
been
sure.
over 35.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a cycle like this?
No. No. And firstly, we don't even have a cycle anymore. This is what I love about Dubai. We're the first city in the planet. We don't operate on a property cycle anymore. That's why I talked about frames of reference to help people understand. What we have now is a property wave. It's probably a tsunami would be a better name for it. It's a property wave. Now, in a cycle, there is a upward climb for 2 to 3 years. And then there's a slowing of it when the handovers are happening or close to construction. Why slowing? Because the hot investors cool off at that moment because They are not coming in now. My entry point at lowest price gives me the highest return. Here it's almost doubled already. If I buy now, I'm not making a great return. I, as a hardcore investor, would have come early. Who's coming in now? The security investors who don't mind paying more on a more aggressive plan, but I sleep well at night because I can see the building. And the home owners show up who will take mortgages, and they are anyway not going to be buying something in an off-plan stage. Very rarely will the home owner come there. That's when you will find developers also tend to slow down because now ready inventory is coming out into the market. That is in a traditional property cycle. Because what will happen now is when units come out into the market, the emphasis moves to the mortgage buyers and the ready home owners. They are the ones who start to dominate the market, and investors will wait because prices tend to start coming down because a lot of units come out into the market. Even that is actually an orchestrated drop. It is not done as a distress. Distress comes after that. How does it happen? Anthony picks up a unit at 5 million. At launch phase, he's buying sand. But in 2.5 years, as more and more people are buying, the prices are going up. By the time it comes close to handover, the value of that 5 million is probably 9 million or 9.5. So there comes the security investor at that point who wants to see the building, and he pays 9.5 for the same unit. Anthony already has an edge on him, right? Now, when the homes hand over at that point, developers keep some inventory. Why? Because they know if they sell everything to Anthony and his type of, he makes only 5%. I'm sorry, he makes only 5 million. But if I hold a few units, I can make 10 million on them. So they will keep a few. And because they will price it at 10 million, they give Anthony the opportunity to come in at 9.8. Both the units are ready, both are handed over. So the developer allows his own investor to compete against him. Why? It will make Anthony always buy from them in the future. So we understand that as a developer, and we give you that benefit. This is what we're giving, because you'll have 1 unit, 2 units, 5 units. I may have units. I have thousands of agencies working for me. We will do campaigns, roadshows. We will sell it. So now what happens? 10 million, this guy who came in here, the security buyer paid 9.5, for example. He's still happy. 500,000 just went up in the next 1 year. Now the handovers happen, 10 million is going. Anthony comes and puts 9.8. He is engineering the drop. But how much is he making? 4.8 on his 5 million. But this guy who paid 9.5 panics.
Yeah.
What's happening now? 200 has gone down.
Losing value.
Yeah. So 1 or 2 of these guys just come at 9.8, 9.7. He panics. He says, let me get out of the market. 9.4. And that's from there it starts going downwards. But Anthony, who bought here, is at rock bottom for that opportunity. He will never, ever lose. Because even if you look over a 3-year period of a downturn, prices drop how much? 30
10%, 15%.
Even if it drops 30%.
Doesn't happen.
Anthony, it doesn't. Let's take the worst case scenario. It drops 30%.
Anthony's
had a 90%. So there is no way he's going to lose in that. So this is why people don't understand. So that's the traditional cycle. In Dubai, because of our because in the traditional cycle, absorption takes time of the ready units. How did we quicken that? Introduce golden visa. When it first came out, the property had to be ready. So suddenly now you had a lot of people who may not have been considering buying, who showed interest because the golden visa. They said, okay, once we can get handover, we apply. So absorption of ready units went up. Now when the absorption goes up, the price doesn't need to drop so much. So even the security investor who bought at this stage is happy. So that's what happened in the market. Then came the economic agendas, which we never had. People look at the peak. 2014 was the peak, 172 points on the dynamic price index. And everybody was saying for a few years, the prices haven't yet hit the 2014 peak. We are now at 208. We are 21% above that peak. Because people, what are they doing? They're looking at the future Dubai and saying, hey, we haven't hit 2014 peak. That is history 10 years ago. In 2014, you had no golden visas. You did not have a D33.
You
had
had
nothing.
The announcement of the expo, which was happened in November 2013, and every owner just pushed their properties 25%.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this Dubai was not there. So what was the sense in looking backwards and saying we have not yet hit 2014 peak? Now what are you saying? We've gone 21% above that because this is a very different Dubai. So for us now, absorption is happening here. 70% population is coming in here. All the multinational companies are coming here. There's the urban master plan. There is the real estate selling strategy. There is the doubling of foreign direct investments. There's 400 new cities coming in the map. An airport for 260 billion people a year is 260 million people a year is being created. So absorption is happening. So now what's happening is in Dubai, it's a wave. You go up. Once the handovers start, you're still having high absorption and launches are still continuing from there.
Correct.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. So we are on a wave. We are going like this. This is how the market is growing. That's why you're finding the prices are going like this.
I've seen lots of investors following this cycle, which is buying off plan, selling it when it's ready, and re-entering the market with the profits and keeping the main capital.
Yes.
So many are doing it.
Yeah. Easy. It can be done because that's the kind of return they're getting in the market today.
What a year, and I cannot wait for 2025. If the projections are right, another 15% upward, this will be beautiful. Doctor, let me finish this episode. I want to ask you finally about the GPCI.
Yeah. Okay. The GPCI is the Global Power City Index. This is a report that comes out. It's a Japanese report, by the way. It comes from the Mori Memorial Foundation. And what they do is they study over 100 cities in the world to see the power influence, the pull capacity of the cities. So the pull capacity, how does it attract individuals? How does it attract governments? How does it attract capital? And how does it attract enterprises? That's what they look at. And they look at it in 6 different categories. They look at economic development. They look at culture. They look at R&D. They look at environment. They look at livability index. And they look at accessibility. There are 70 sub-points on each of these 6 categories. So in this report, Dubai is number 1 in the region for the last 2 years and number 8 in the world as a soft power city. Now that is impressive by any standard, because while we may be 53 years old as a country, the Dubai that people are buying into as a city and as an investment is 24 years old. So in 24 years today, we are rubbing shoulders with the New Yorks, the Londons, the Paris, Tokyos, the Shanghais, the Mumbais, Zurich. We are rubbing shoulders with them in just 24 years. Singapore, we are up there with them. So that report is a very powerful report because it's a power city index. We are now being seen as one of the top 10 power cities globally and the top power city in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Not in terms of political power, in terms of attracting people, and it's a fact. No other city here is attracting people like us. No one's attracting the same kind of capital. No one's attracting the same level of enterprises, though many of them are on the rise. That's who we are. That's the GPC.
We're so proud to be part of this,
100%.
For me, a decade, and for you, 3 decades easy. Doctor, thanks a lot for this beautiful episode. Thank you for this valuable information. Guys, hope you enjoyed this episode and see you in the next one.
AJ in Dubai, making moves Broadway. Real estate king, stack bricks all day. Bought a crib so tall, can't see the ground. Cash flow endless, funds never drown. Dubai skyline, Anthony raining. Got the penthouse.